I always knew I wanted to do business. I just didn't know how to get there. Well, the grass becomes greener, doesn't it? It's the downside of hiring amazing people, doing everything and doing nothing.
You're busy as.
That's what I was doing. I'm getting the hairs are standing up on the back of my neck talking about it, see? I'm a plumber gas for the drain layer. That's what I got taught. I didn't get taught how to run a business. So I need to be shown how to be a business person. You need to seek that coaching because it will give you direction and it will give you an understanding around how you get where you need to go. It's a good way to ruin a good team member is to micromanage them. It's probably, in my mind, one of the hardest things. It's like running before you can walk, but it does work.
On today's episode, I interviewed Duncan Leask from Opti Plum, who is a member of the $1 Million Tradie program and has built an epic plumbing business in a very short time. Now, since starting his business just under 3 years ago, Duncan has built a strong team of 10 employees and recently hit $200,000 in monthly revenue. His business, Opti Plum, is well known for providing outstanding customer service, and Duncan has managed to get himself off the tools and has big plans for the future. Tune in as Duncan talks through his exciting journey and shares all the lessons he's learned. Alrighty, Tony Fraser-Jones here, the host of the Profitable Tradie podcast. Really excited about today's session. They say success leaves clues, and on today's episode, I interviewed Duncan Leask from Opti Plum. Welcome, Duncan. Awesome to have you here, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. Yeah. It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, excited to get into it. So I was actually going back through the notes when you joined the $1 Million Tradie program. Take a few notes, and it makes interesting reading. So it was September 2021, I believe. You'd recently started your business, I think maybe 8 months in, and you'd had a couple of guys working with you. Things had been, started off pretty good. You'd hit the ground running. You were super busy, and you're feeling pretty stressed, and you wanted to know how to grow a business the right way with good systems so that you could scale, profitably rather than create a bunch of chaos.
Yep.
So I guess my first question is, can you talk us through why it was important to make changes and get help when you did?
Yeah, so obviously I've always known that business was about sort of forward thinking, but there's no point forward thinking if you don't have the tools to implement what you're thinking about. So I just knew that I knew where I was heading. I knew that I wanted to grow and I wanted to know how to get there sort of as quickly as I possibly could, you might say. And I knew I couldn't do that without the tools.
Nice.
And that's why we are here today.
Yeah, happy days.
Yep. So when I joined the program, it was myself on the tools and I had one tradesman and an apprentice on the tools as well. Doing everything and doing nothing.
You're busy.
That's what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Duncan's a big man. He can shift a bit of work, but it's hard work doing it on your own. So how does it look now?
10 staff or 10.5.
Tell me about the 0.5. Is it a very small person or half a person?
It's just a 0.5 of time, not so much stature, more time. Just a marketing person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yep. And so we're 10.
Yep.
We're 10 now. We're 3 in the office, myself, operations manager, office manager, and a 0.5 of a marketing person.
Yep.
And 7 on the tools.
Nice. And what's the monthly revenue look like now?
Over 200 in the last 3-4 months.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Very happy with that.
Yep. And in terms of profitability and gross margins, what do you sort of look to hit these days?
Between 40 and 50 for sure. Yeah,
for your gross profit.
That's what for gross profit, 40 and 50%. So that's what we're always angling at.
So you've made some cool changes, made some great progress. And what I'd love to know is what is the results of that meant for you and your family and just life in general?
The biggest thing for me and my family is obviously control, not having control, not being a control freak, so to speak, but I feel in control because I've got levers that I can pull to make things happen without me having to, bend over backwards and pour my time and effort into that rather than my family, which is where it should be.
Yep. And so now that you're further down the track, you feel like you've got more ability to do that.
Definitely, yeah, without a doubt.
And you've got kids. What age are your kids?
I've got 3 kids. I've got my oldest son is 7.5, my daughter's 5.5, and my youngest boy is just over 3.
Yeah, so it's busy times, yeah?
It's very busy. He was 6 months when I went into business. So.
Yeah. He hasn't known any different. So
no.
I'd like to just rewind the clock a little bit. So you were a key employee in a large established business before you went out on your own. What made you do your own thing?
For a long time, I always knew that I had more to give. and I wanted more. I've always wanted more. I just didn't have the tools to do that. Yeah. My family's not from a business background, and I was never had any sort of mentors in that area. So I always knew I wanted to do business. I just didn't know how to get there. Being part of a big business, big, well-established business, I learned a whole lot of really helpful things that I'll be grateful for a long time, but still wasn't enough for me. I needed to be able to absolutely mould what I saw was the perfect business, so to speak.
And I think this might be something just cool to reflect on for people who are listening. Maybe they've got a key person in their business as well. What lessons did you learn from your experience working with another business about how you need to treat your key employees?
So obviously I was a key employee. The biggest thing I learnt was to make sure that the communication's open and constant. And obviously your key employees have to work with your personality. You need to be, it's okay to be not required day to day, but you still need to be connected. People out there who have operations managers or estimators or that of the like for people or project managers, they'll know that being connected is real, or they should be connected.
Being connected to the owner.
Just being connected to your staff.
Right.
Yep. To your key staff, definitely. And that doesn't necessarily mean following them around and making sure they're doing the right thing, but understanding your people on a personal and professional level so that you can see, without being there all the time, you can see what's happening. You can see how they feel, what's going on.
Okay, so that's basically understanding how they tick, what their needs, what their wants are, what their goals are, all that sort of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if that doesn't happen, how does it affect your key employees?
Well, the grass becomes greener, doesn't it? I mean, it's the downside of hiring amazing people. If you hire amazing people, they need to be fed some amazing content to do what they need to do. They need to be pushed. They need to be kept accountable. They need to know that if the proverbial poo definitely hits the fan, then someone will be there, That's the basis of it in my mind.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Got to know they're valued, and also that there's some brightness of future and there's a place they can grow as well.
Yeah.
So you've made lots and lots of changes, and you've done some great things, and I think you should be really proud of it. What I'd like to focus on is a few of the things that have made a huge difference, so we can share your wisdom and have a discussion that will really help the listeners. First area, you've obviously made some great gains in revenue. When we started working together, you've 2 to 3x that revenue, hitting over 200K after less than 3 years, which I think is a great result. What have been the key drivers of your revenue growth?
Obviously, staff is a massive driver. Having goals around your revenue is number one. Number two would be having staff to be actually help you to get to those goals. Good clients. If you want to be a good business, you've got to have good clients. You've got to have good staff. You've got to have good systems. Everything's got to be good. So there's no point working for people who you're going to get a low margin out of, or they're not going to respect your service. It's just not going to happen. So the main thing is obviously respect yourself, where you want to go, and mould your business, your staff, your suppliers, your employees, everything around that.
So you talked about goals. So what's the process, or what do you do in terms of setting goals for revenue?
We work that out through obviously PT resources. We work out how many staff we're going to have. I work out how many staff I want to have, or what I foresee the revenue that I want, and then I backfill the staff from there. And then I understand, sort of simultaneously, which clients we already have, which ones we can get more juice out of, so to speak, or, without having to market too much more. And then after that, we just market out or network out.
Yeah, and I'd love to dig into the marketing a little bit, but I think something you've touched on there I've found to be really profound and helpful when growing a business. And most people are like, well, I'll wait till I get the work and then I'll hire the staff. But in my experience, and I think what you're digging at is figure out how much revenue and profit you want to make, and then work backwards to how many team members you need to have to make that happen. Because often the hardest thing to do is to find the employees. And if you can find the good employees, the work tends to just come. Has that been in your experience?
Definitely. And it's far from easy to understand as a human being.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably, in my mind, one of the hardest things. It's like running before you can walk. That's what I compare it to. And it is hair-raising, but it does work. It's forced commitment, you might say.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a phrase we use, forced commitment or creating the vacuum. You've actually created the environment where you have to find the work, and that puts the pressure on you to do it. So let's dig into that. What have you done to actually grow that revenue? How have you gone about finding work? What are the strategies you've put in place that you've found have worked for you?
We have a little bit of a process as I've moved along. I've had a little bit of a process now around. We sort of cherry pick the clients that we're after, and then we I either network with them or market to them, and then we have a deliberate process in which the moment we get a job for them, we basically go into overdrive and we just go through the process of giving them the most optimum service that they can receive, and then we come back, ask them how we went. We continue to give them the optimum service, and the whole team are on the same page with that. To be honest, it's just how we do. They know we're growing. Everybody in the team knows we're growing. So we get our hands onto a new client, a good quality client, and we make sure that they stay with us.
Hence the name Opti Plum.
Mm-hmm.
What are the marketing tools that you've used to identify those key clients? What do you actually do marketing-wise?
In terms of what we do marketing-wise, we haven't done a whole lot until early on this year. The market's changed a lot. What I do now is I know the area we want to work in. I know the client we want, and I more or less, like I said, I cherry pick them, and then I market to them either directly, or I network with them, or I use other contacts. As soon as I can, I get them into the database. So give them a call, touch base, get their details, get them into the system, and then we can market to them through our marketing emails.
Yep.
LinkedIn, for me, LinkedIn is big.
Yep.
It just works for our maintenance work.
So what would be your advice to other business owners who want to grow their revenue and they're looking at you, they're like, well, he's been in business less than 3 years, he's gone from 0 to 200K a month, and I'm still struggling along, or maybe my revenue's been flat for a long time. What would be your advice to them to get them unstuck?
Don't overthink it. It's very basic, right? You've got your key work that you want to carry out. Every set of key work, whether it be new housing, whether it be maintenance, whether it be renovations, whether it be drainage, and vice versa for your electricals or your other trades. You know the market you want to be in, so you really just need to go into that pool, identify people who you think there's lots of ways to identify it. You can identify it with their online presence. You can identify it with the projects they work on, with the people they are, the type of person that business owner is, and then you just attack them, with your marketing, with your good service, with your good staff. Yeah,
I think there's something there that you said really casually, which might have slipped under the radar for a lot of people, and that was you choose or identify your market. And I think that's often where a lot of people fall down. They're like, oh, I need work. Well, I just need work. It's like, I don't really care what work it is. Any work will do. But I think, what we teach our members, and obviously you've been through this before, is that you've actually got to figure out what type of work and be quite specific about it. Because if you want any type of work, then it's hard to figure out what type of marketing is going to work. If you know specifically what you want, then it's pretty easy, and you can be very direct. And I think if you, like you alluded to, if you can get the name, the business name and the name of the key people to target, it's actually pretty easy, right?
Yep, definitely.
It is that simple.
Yep, it is. If you market to the wrong market, so to speak, you're going to end up, and your team's not suited to that work. It's going to kill your margin because you're going to get callbacks. You don't know how to do those jobs, so it's slow. It's very slow to build your revenue. You've got to go into things you're really good at, no callbacks, good margin, and then you get your profit pool so you can grow.
Yeah, killer. Yeah. So the key lesson there, I guess, is know which market you want to target.
Definitely.
And to do that by figuring out what you're good at, your back cost your jobs, and figure out where the profit is as well. It's really the key ways. Let's look at things from a different angle. And one of the things I've really respected about you is you've had some challenges with being overwhelmed and stressed with your business growth journey, and it's been really real. So how has that stress affected you personally?
Oh, it affects me heavily. When you get to our size, you've got staff who need to pay mortgages. You've got, your own family, obviously. You've got all sorts of overheads and things like that. And then you've got add a little bit of uncertainty, and it doesn't work too well with a lot of people. So it's, in terms of working through that, it's just about controlling the controllables, so to speak. Being grateful for what I've got and where I've got to has been big for me. Yeah.
And we've had a couple of conversations about this, and I think one of the big lessons that I've learned, and I think you've done well, is that you're actually prepared to put your hand up and be vulnerable with where you're at with this. And I think a lot of people, it's quite difficult. We're in a pretty male-dominated industry, and don't want to get into all the deep and meaningful as here, the D&M, but this is actually it's real, right? This is real.
Yeah.
And it's really important to actually put your hand up and reach out for help when things are difficult, isn't it?
100%. Communication is probably right up there with the top relief for this type of situation if you're going through it.
Yeah. And I know you've done a few things, looked at meditation and breathing exercises and all this sort of stuff. And I think you do that stuff quite regularly now, don't you?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
If we don't do stuff to keep ourselves strong, on a daily basis, our resilience goes down and then shit gets on top of us. So that's, I guess, one thing I think we've talked about. And the second thing is obviously it's good to have some strategies when you are really tapped out to just kind of unlock things. I love what you said about controlling the controllables, though. Can you maybe give us an example or talk through how that works? Maybe a big challenge that you've had, which has felt really overwhelming, and, what you actually did to actually get through it by actually focusing on the you could control?
Yeah. So recently I've... right in the midst of being overwhelmed and not having a whole lot of work, I did what probably not a whole lot of people do, but some people would have been through before, and that's I hired 2 staff, 2 tradesmen to just ramp my revenue to the next level. Very, very difficult to do, but learned a lot about myself. What I did through that stage was obviously I just prepared myself fully in terms of I gave myself what I wanted to do. It was hire 2 staff. What did I need to do that? I needed a vehicle, 2 vehicles. I needed stock. I needed more clients. So I listed that down, and then I basically worked from the top. I obviously job ad straight up, just controlling what you can do. There's no point saying you want to do something and then not paving the way, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think breaking it down is important. If you are listening, you're feeling overwhelmed, it might be you've had a couple of people leave your business and you're like, holy shit, I need to find some more people. And you're like, I need someone now. Well, that's not something you can control. But what you can control is getting a job ad, writing a job ad and posting it. That's a controllable. And then another controllable is if you haven't got the replies you want after a week, changing it to see if you can get something else. That's a controllable.
Yep.
A controllable is, going to the suppliers and seeing if you can get the word out there that you're looking for someone.
Yep.
And so it's focusing on the actual stuff that you can do, which will move the ball down the field. Yep. And I think, we've talked before often that what people do is focus on the end result that they want, which might be, I need extra clients. How am I going to get the extra clients? But they forget about the steps along the way, which is, like you said, well, why don't I go through LinkedIn and actually find people who I could talk to? That's a controllable.
Yeah. And
then I can control them by actually making a phone call or buying a coffee and going and see them. That's a controllable. Yeah. And when you live in the controllables, actually, that changes how you feel about things, doesn't it?
Yeah. And when you're doing all of that, you're getting through your controllables, and you're getting to the next stage. Recognise that and understand. Okay, I'm there now. Well done. That's a positive. Let's go. Give yourself a pat on the back. Carry on. It gives you that burst of what's the chemical, my friend? Oxytocin.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it just helps you feel good. Get a big price in. Get a job. Get a job over the line. Yes. Well done. Let's go. Move on. Buy a vehicle. Yes. We're in. Kit it out. Yes. We're off.
Yep.
I'm getting the hairs are standing up on the back of my neck talking about it, see?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. There's always more to do, isn't there? There's always more to do than you can do. So if you don't focus on the wins you're having along the way, and if you're not grateful for the results you've got, it ain't going to be fun. So I think that's something that I really admire about how you've gone about it, because I know that it has been really, it's been pretty difficult at times as well.
Yes, 10 staff, 2.5 years, happy, joy, It's been very difficult getting there. Yeah, very difficult getting there, but I'm very focused on what I want to do, and definitely celebrating the wins as we go.
100%. So what I'd also like to dig into is the profitability of the business, how you actually made it profitable. So what do you actually do to help you achieve strong profit margins?
Number one is obviously staff. For me, staff definitely. Client base and staff. We do what we know how to do, and we do it to an absolute top level every time. We do what we say we're going to do. That's the best way to, with staff and with clients. That's how we get quality clients. It's how we get quality contracts, and it filters down from the top, obviously. So we're organised and efficient. We're as efficient as we possibly can be operationally. The rest will work from there. If you have the right people in the right places, and you've got your OPEX or your overhead staff finely tuned, then it just works.
So you talked about organisation. What do you think specifically you do from an organisation standpoint that really helps drive that profitability?
The biggest thing you need to do is get the biggest weapon of a job management system that you can find.
Yeah.
In my experience, I've worked with job management systems for over 10 years.
Some
now.
people call it field software, but it's the same thing.
Field software
Yep.
or job management system. You know, there's various different ones. Get the biggest and best one you can find, because you'll never outgrow it. And then you absolutely lean on it, because you are paying for it, and you just have everybody buy into that system so that everything's done from the system, and then your efficiency just unfolds from there. Ours has.
Yeah, for sure. What do you do in terms of the financial numbers? So what do you do in terms of tracking stuff and you know, margins and P&Ls and all that sort of stuff? Because I think that's something you do well as well.
Yep. So the job management tracks on a job-by-job basis. Obviously, I'm constantly tracking the margins. Every month, every job gets tracked down to the letter in terms of the margin, so to speak. That's net profit and gross margin. Monthly, I'm delving into the bottom line and understanding what's happening with the margin and the net profit. And in relation to, because of where we are, we're always up and down. I've been adding overheads and we're still a small business, and I've been investing in front of where we are. So I'm always having to keep a real close eye on cash flow and margin, so to speak.
And you do a monthly profit and loss, don't you?
100%. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm watching the P&L throughout the month now, just to track the sales.
Yep. And when you're pricing work, do you have targets that you aim for when you're pricing jobs, so that you've got something to shoot for? How do you work that process?
In terms of margin, absolutely. Yep. Every job is priced to a margin. It's not priced to anything else. It's priced to the margin. Work out what the job what needs doing on that job, and then if the margin's not right, you tweak it until it is.
And we're talking gross margin there, aren't we?
Gross margin.
Yeah, we're not talking a markup.
No, gross margin. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Not markup.
Okay, so I think you alluded to it. You had a rough patch a few months ago, and work seemed like it was drying up, and the team, perhaps didn't have enough to do, and it was pretty stressful. What did you do, and what are you doing marketing wise to ensure you got plenty of work ahead of the team?
The first thing I did was sort my head out so that I could think straight, because if you can't, there's many sayings, fish rots from the head, or put your own oxygen mask on first. There's a few different ones. Yeah. So I sorted myself out first and just got my head straight so that I could understand where I was going, how I was going to get there. And then I went through and did a couple of email blasts and, utilised our existing client base, so that, minimal marketing costs on that one. Utilised that, got quite a few jobs out of that one. And then just from there, created on-site checklists for the guys to implement in terms of upselling. So, and we just, 20 odd jobs from an email blast ended up being sort of, up to 50 and then ongoing, and all of a sudden we were really quite busy. So that was a massive learning for me, to watch the pipeline a bit harder. Yeah,
and that's particularly in these uncertain times, the pipeline can dry out a bit. Yeah. So I think that's something we've seen with our members as well, is if you're not tracking how much work's in front of your team, you can get a really nasty surprise. And it's actually taking you off the ball if you're not doing it. Now, I understand it's hard, isn't it? Because you're busy doing work, you're trying to get done, and worrying about the future is like, that might be tomorrow's problem. But if you don't worry about it, it becomes today's problem pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely a good investment to set aside some time to see what's going on. If you're getting jobs cancelled, you need to act on that fairly quickly and understand how big a hole that's going to leave, so that you can pull your levers and see what you've got on the back burner and what you can add in there. Yeah,
and look, if your monthly revenue is $200,000, and I know yours is slightly different, you have a lot of maintenance work which tends to come in, daily and weekly. But if you're a projects business and you normally have $600,000 work in the pipeline, you've got 3 months in front of you, and all of a sudden that's down to 80. You're not measuring it. You're going to get an awful fright. So you do need to measure it and understand how it looks.
Yeah, understanding your turnarounds is very important in terms of, we do construction, renovation and maintenance. So every market has a different turnaround, right? So you've got to understand that, if you've got no houses on or whatever on, commercial projects or whatever now, if you haven't priced any now, it's unlikely they're going to be in the books for quite a few months. So
yeah, lead time's important to understand. And if it is maintenance work too, it's like if the phone is not going as much, that's a pretty good indication that it's going to get quiet.
Yep, definitely.
So, keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's talk about team, because this is something you do exceptionally well. I mean, you started the business just under 3 years ago, you go from 0 employees to a team of 10, when honestly, most plumbing and other tradie businesses have actually struggled to hire. So what do you do to make your business stand out from the crowd for potential employees?
Well, it started with me. So my first hire was someone that I knew well, and I knew that he was a values fit. So the key is, to make ourselves look enticing, you might say, to potential employees, our social media is huge. It's always been focused on our people rather than our projects, so to speak.
And I think that's a really important point of difference is often your marketing and social media and stuff, people are thinking about getting clients, but actually the most powerful thing you can do with it is often to market for employees, isn't it?
Yeah, and often if you're marketing for employees, there is a roll-on effect to clients anyway.
100%.
Yeah, so definitely, we want to be perceived as a good employer, but obviously the number 2 thing is to actually be one. What I found was, obviously my first hire was someone I knew well, but when he actually got in, he realised how good it was, and then he started talking to people, and then the next person we hired did the same thing, and now we've got 8 people who talk about how cool it is to work there. It's not a walk in the park. It's a hard job, you know what I mean? We're tradespeople. Everyone knows it's a hard job, but there's certainly a place for enjoying the people that you work with and enjoying what you do.
And I think there's a real good lesson in that. If you are not getting, like you think about clients, if you're getting referrals and word of mouth, it means you're doing a good job. If you're not getting a lot of referrals and word of mouth, it means you're probably doing an okay job, or maybe a rubbish job. But normally it's just okay.
Yeah.
It's not outstanding. It's exactly the same for employing people.
Yep.
And if you're not getting your tradespeople or your technicians or even your people in the office referring their friends or people they know to work with you, or sounding them out, or letting them know that there's a job opportunity, there's something probably not quite right. You're probably not quite hitting the mark.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head there.
So referral business for team members is actually the best type of referral business.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And what is it about what you do that you think makes your team want to refer their friends? What is the points of difference?
It's all good and well to sort of portray yourself as a good place to work, but you need to actually be engaged with your staff and sort of understand them on a bit of a deeper level and see where they are.
So if I came and sat with you for a week or so, what would I observe about how Opti Plum treats its employees that would show me that difference?
Plumbing maintenance is a fast job, so we offset what they're all doing at different times. We can see that someone's getting tapped out, so to speak, in terms of time. We take special care around that. We have 20s, 6 weekly at the moment, 6 to 8 weekly, and we know what our people or our guys at this point, what makes them tick. So we know where they're wanting to go. We know what they're wanting to do. We've got a young team, so they're constantly getting through their qualifications, so we help them out with that, make sure they're on it. If someone doesn't do too well on an exam or something, we get in behind them as a team. Our personal lives intertwine with our professional. We all know each other. We are a team at the end of the day.
When you hear someone tell you that they're an honest person, you never believe them, because you don't have to tell someone you're honest. If you're honest, you just be honest. So It sounds like you just care.
Yeah. That's the key to it. You know what I mean? It's the old saying or the old thinking around, yes, they come to work and they get a wage and they go home, they should be very grateful, is sort of out the door. You know what I mean? There's a lot of opportunity out there for in a lot of different areas these days, and you really need to concentrate on building your team and keeping your team. And you know.
Okay, let's talk about the actual process. Can you talk us through your hiring process?
Yeah, it's a fairly familiar process to a lot of people probably.
Hopefully.
It's a special process. Am I allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, you can talk about it.
Okay.
That's all right.
It's an 11-step process, which I've...
11 steps?
Is it 11?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
I like the sound of this.
I know it very well. So I'll follow that to the letter, basically. Yeah, don't muck around with the script. Someone smart once told me. And, I follow that to the letter. And I put a very big onus on, or importance on, the in-person interviews. That's big. I really push a few buttons in there and start understanding that person. Why are you coming to me? Why are we sitting down and talking? What are you up to in your life? Where have you been? Ask a few situational questions. Decide on the values fit just to see whether or not this person is suitable. You know, I've got a couple of guys, 2 or 3 guys now that have, you know, they come to me and they're, to be honest, probably a little bit underqualified. When I hired them, I thought they were a little bit underqualified, but once getting them in the door and giving them the optimum treatment, so to speak, they actually just flourished and they've become leaders within our team very quickly.
Yeah, well, it's the values fit, isn't it? If they've got the right attitude,
yeah,
much easier to train skill than train attitude.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. The 11-step hiring process is the process we teach our members. We're kind of speaking in code there, but it's absolutely critical, and it goes from telephone interviews to face-to-face interviews to some psychometric testing and reference checking. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, but it's really critical, like you said, to have a process and to follow it, because otherwise you just tend to have a chat with them, at the back of the workshop, and do I like them, and you hire them, yes or no, which is not the way to build a team.
No, definitely not. Yeah, those chats will not get you anywhere. Yeah, having those chats. I've turned down multiple tradespeople because the old way it used to be done is I don't do CVs, I don't do references, I just get a job. I've never had to do a CV. Well, welcome to the party, mate. Yep. Everybody does a CV here. Yeah. Yep.
If you can't do a CV,
everybody
that's a problem.
goes through the process.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about what you've done is you really think about stuff, and mindset's important. So what mindset changes have you had to make to achieve the success you've had?
It doesn't need to be perfect, would be very high up on the list. It doesn't
Amen.
need to be, definitely doesn't need to be perfect if you're listening out there. Make a plan, implement the plan, tweak it as you go. That would be one of the highest ones. Understand yourself. Do a disc profile on yourself probably. Understand yourself before you start building your team, or while you're building a team, so you can understand the type of person you are, and that'll go a long way. Make your goals and run with them regardless. There's always going to be uncertainty. Just let it happen. If you're focused and you're planned, it will happen and it will work.
Actually, something else I think we talked about maybe before we started today was about how as you've grown the team, you've found you've had to really get out of the way of your team. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a great lesson.
Yeah, it's a huge lesson. It's a good way to ruin a good team member is to micromanage them, and a lot of people listening will be the business owner, and they'll be looking at people and going, why aren't you doing it properly? Or, think they need to jump in there and just get involved, but you're never going to clear yourself enough space, so to speak, mentally or physically, to be able to do what you need to do to grow the business if you can't get out of the way of your people, right? There's no point hiring good people if you're not going to let them be good. Let them be good. It'll give you time you need, and you can continue to get on your path and do what you need to do.
Yeah, for sure. How important is getting outside help been for your success?
Massive. It's absolutely massive. It's like trying to be a plumber without a trade. You know what I mean? Like we're all, a lot of people are business owners, but the first thing they are is a tradesperson or whatever they do for a living. We get taught to. I got taught to plumb. I'm a plumber gas for the drain layer. That's what I got taught. I didn't get taught how to run a business. So if I didn't get shown how to be a plumber, I wouldn't be a plumber. So I need to be shown how to be a business person, which is huge. You need to seek that coaching because it will give you direction and it will give you an understanding around how you get where you need to go.
For sure. What have you valued most about the help you've received?
Resources would be very high up on the list. Resources for me are, like I said at the start, I know where I want to go, but a lot of the time I don't know, or in the past I haven't known how to get there. So the resourcing is huge with PT. When
you talk about resources, what specifically do you mean?
People and your website resources that PT's got for members, but also the team, PT team, can just give you as a business owner, no one tells you what to do because you're the business owner. Your staff don't tell you. Maybe your wife doesn't tell you, or she does.
Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't know either. Sometimes let's not get into that.
Exactly. But if you stand at the top for too long and no one gives you a kick up the bum, then you tend to get a bit complacent or a bit lazy, or maybe not. You just need someone to go, hey man, you need to look at the forest through the trees. Or,
yep.
Have a look at that. You're missing that. Oh, okay. Heck, I didn't even realise it. Yeah,
for sure. Well, Duncan, this has been a pleasure chatting. Really appreciate you taking some time. I guess a couple of things I want to say to wrap up. One is congratulations on the success you've had so far. And the second thing is, and you may or may not know this is only the start. There's actually an amazing journey that's to come as well. And I've worked with, thousands of business owners, and I know some of the traits that successful people have, and you certainly have that. So what I'm looking forward to seeing over the next few years is where you actually take this to, because I think it's going to be a really exciting journey.
Yeah, exciting times. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Thanks,
Take care.
mate.
We'll catch you soon.
Cheers.